Hello everyone and a very warm welcome to this lesson. In this lesson, I'm going to be teaching you about the IELTS Speaking Test Part 1. In this lesson, we're going to be talking about the topic of transport. So today's topic is transport. Now, we're going to look at some questions that you may be asked by your examiner on this topic. We are also going to look at some sample answers. Now, question 1. How did you get here today? How did you get here today? You could say, I traveled by bus. Or you could say, I used the train. Or you could say, I drove myself here. Or you could say, my father dropped me here. So you have different options depending on how you got there. Did you use a bus, the train, or did you drive yourself there? Or did someone drop you there? Okay? So you have a couple of options there. How did you get here today? I traveled by bus. I used the train. I drove myself here. My father dropped me here. Or my mother dropped me here. Or I used a taxi. The taxi driver dropped me here. Okay? Question 2. What is your favorite mode of transport? What is your favorite mode of transport? Now, what this question is asking you is, how do you prefer to travel? How do you prefer to travel? What type of transport do you prefer to use every time you travel? Now, you could answer this question by saying, for example, answer number 2. I prefer to take the train because it is always on time. It is also cheaper than a bus and faster because it doesn't stop everywhere. Now, if you watched my previous video on IELTS Speaking Test Part 1, where I talked about the topic of hometown, then you remember I said that you have to avoid yes or no answers. But also you have to try and explain your answers. Try and provide at least one reason. Okay? That gives you a chance to showcase your vocabulary, but also it gives you a chance to showcase that you have a good command of the English language. So always try and provide an explanation for your answer. So number 2, what is your favorite mode of transport? I prefer to take the train because it is always on time. It is also cheaper than a bus and faster because it doesn't stop everywhere. Okay, so you can see there I have given a few reasons. I have stated my favorite mode of transport, which is taking the train, and I have given a few reasons why. 1, because it's always on time. 2, because it's cheaper. And 3, because it's faster. It gets me there as soon as possible. And the reason for that is because it doesn't stop at every bus stop. Now, question 3. Do you ever use public transport? Do you ever use public transport? you could answer this question by saying, definitely. I use the train almost daily, and every now and then I take the bus. Definitely, I use the train almost daily, and every now and then I take the bus. Okay? So what you're being asked in that question is, how often do you use public transport? How often? So in my answer, I have explained that part of the question because I said I use the train almost daily. So how often? Almost every day. Okay? And what about the bus? From time to time. That means not as often as I use the train. So ensure that you understand what the examiner is asking you and provide a comprehensive or a detailed answer. Don't just say, do you ever use public transport? Yes. Do you ever use public transport? No. Do you ever use public transport? Definitely. Okay, so try and provide an explanation to your answer. Question 4. Do you like the transport system in your country? Do you like the transport system in your country? Now, you could answer that question by saying, the transport system in my country is very reliable, so I like it a lot. However, when it snows or rains really hard, there are a lot of traffic jams on the roads. Do you like the transport system in your country? The transport system in my country is very reliable, so I like it a lot. However, when it snows or rains hard, there are a lot of traffic jams on the roads. Now, that is an example of a detailed answer. So, do you like the transport system in your country? Do not just say yes or no. Explain your answer. So, yes, I like it a lot, and that's because it is very reliable. However, when it snows or rains hard, there are a lot of traffic jams on the roads. Remember, the idea behind your speaking test on any given topic is to actually showcase that you have good vocabulary to be able to talk about that topic. Okay, so if you simply say yes or no, then you do not provide the examiner with a chance to see that you do have the vocabulary to be able to speak about that particular topic. And hence why it's very important to provide a detailed answer. Okay? Now, question 5. What is the difference between taking a bus and taking a train? What is the difference between taking a bus and taking a train? Now, you have to understand the question because what you're being asked in question 5 is to compare traveling by bus to traveling by train. So, you could answer that question by saying, taking a bus is less faster than taking a train because the bus stops at every bus stop to drop passengers. The buses are often more overcrowded. Okay? Taking a bus is less faster than taking a train because the bus stops at every bus stop to drop passengers. The buses are often more overcrowded. So in that answer, I have compared taking a bus to taking a train. In my answer, I have done that by pointing out that when you take a bus, it is faster. Okay? I have even given a reason for that, and that is the fact that the bus, if you take a bus, it will stop at every bus stop to drop passengers. But I've also given another comparison. Another difference is that buses are more overcrowded than trains. Okay? So in that answer, I have not only given enough differences, but I have also used some vocabulary. Okay? I have used grammatical structures that you need to use when you're comparing things, like less, faster than, more, okay? Because here we're talking about differences. So taking a bus is less faster than taking a train, because the bus stops at every bus stop to drop passengers. The buses are often more overcrowded. Now, question 6. What is the advantage and disadvantage of taking a flight? What is the advantage and disadvantage of taking a flight? Now, once more, first ensure that you understand the question. Listen to the key words in the question. And in this case, we have the words advantage, disadvantage, and flight. So you have to know what advantage means. So what is the advantage? It means the good point, the good side about something. And the disadvantage is the negative side. Okay, so advantage is the positive side of something. Disadvantage is the negative side of something. And then a flight, I'm sure you already know that, is when you travel by plane. Now, let's see how to answer this question. We have to ensure that in our answer, we give an advantage, but that we also give a disadvantage. So, the advantage of taking a flight is that it's very fast and you arrive at your destination quickly. But the disadvantage is that you sit in a cramped space without enough room to sit comfortably. So in that answer, I have given the advantage, which is that if you take a flight, then you're going to arrive at your destination very quickly. You're going to arrive where you're going pretty fast. But the disadvantage of taking a flight is that you have to sit in a cramped space, very squeezed space, without enough room to sit comfortably. You can hardly stretch your legs. I mean, not everybody can afford to sit in business class. Most people travel economy, okay? So, the idea here is you listen to the question, make sure you understand exactly what the question is asking you, and ensure that you provide an answer to every part of the question. Advantage, disadvantage, okay? Now let's move on to question 7. What affects the transport system in your country? What affects the transport system in your country? Now, this question is asking you, what are some of the things that influence? They have an effect. They influence the transport system in your country. They change it. They affect it in any way. So, what affects the transport system in your country? How do you answer that question? Now, let us look at sample answer 7. It is often affected by poor weather. Whenever we have a heavy downpour or snow, a lot of buses, trains, and flights are cancelled. There are also a lot of traffic jams. Okay? So what sort of things affect the transport system in your country? According to my answer, I have mentioned that it is poor weather. And I have gone right ahead and clarified or provided a clearer explanation of my answer. So when we're talking about poor weather, we're talking about heavy downpour. That is when it rains really hard. And then when you have snow, and what happens? How does that affect your transport system? The buses, the trains, and the flights are cancelled. A lot of them are cancelled. But that's not all. Poor weather affects the transport system, according to my answer, because it does also lead to traffic jams. It leads to a lot of traffic jams on the roads. Okay? Now, this brings me to the end of this lesson. I hope you have found the lesson useful, but as usual, before I sign off, I'm going to read the questions for you. And as I read the questions, start thinking of an answer that you may give to your examiner. How did you get here today? What is your favorite mode of transport? Do you ever use public transport? Do you like the transport system in your country? What is the difference between taking a bus and taking a train? What is the advantage and disadvantage of taking a flight? What affects the transport system in your country? Now, if you can answer those questions correctly, then you should be on the right path to passing your IELTS speaking test. Until our next lesson, thank you very much and bye-bye.